Today will be lesson 24 in the instructional videos for Master Kuo Lien Ying's original Taiji form. And the move that we're working on today is shoot tiger with bow. Because of the vast range of the practitioners that are watching these videos, these YouTube videos, ranging from beginner to advanced, I'm going to be teaching two variations of this move. One beginning for beginners would be like the beginner version, and then also for advanced practitioners there would be a more advanced version of this move. The reason why I'm doing that is because the move is fairly, at first glance, it looks like a pretty simple move, but then there's lots of little details as you kind of gain your understanding about how this move functions and the basic principle behind the move. And so I'm going to teach, kind of give some tips on the more advanced version of this. I want to make it clear that when we were practicing and learning from Master Guo in Portia Square, he only taught just kind of a one basic version, and then he left it up to you to gain understanding about this move. Also, I did a previous video about the application and function of shoot tiger with bow, and I'll leave a link up here for you to go and kind of learn more about this move. I might cover some of that in this particular lesson, but if you go and look at that video, you'll learn more about this move. So I'll begin today's lesson from step up to form 7 stars, and then kind of review the moves up to where we are. So step up to form 7 stars, step back, retreat to ride tiger, then slanting body, turn the moon, and then come forward with a hand, cross wave water lily kick. And so this is where we'll be for shoot tiger with bow, body position. You notice that in this stance, now I'm facing 12 o'clock and I'm at a 45 degree here. Both hands are even here, and the movement is going to be circling with your hands at shoulder level. So we just practice first these 2 circles like this. The circle comes out and in. When this hand is out, this right is back. When the right is out, the left is back. So I advise, if you're beginning to learn this move, just to do these circles here on a flat. In the beginning, if you don't move your hips and body, that's fine, because we're going to just learn the basic arm movement. As you progress in the exercise that I'll show you, you want to use your body for making the movement. So that's the only difference between the beginner and an advanced rendition, is the use of the body for the power and the movement. In the beginning, actually, I advise beginners just to not worry so much about the waist, let your body be relaxed, and you might find that just the hand movement will create your body movement. But for now, if you just do the hand movement, that's fine. First, I want you to get the idea of this circle, and then change to a fist. Doing an open hand will keep you softer. Sometimes if you, when people make a fist, they tend to kind of like use the arm strength for making that fist, and then they're more stiff. So it might be hard to stay soft and have a tight fist. So if you just open with your hands and make the circle. You notice the circle for the left and the circle for the right kind of overlap a little bit, about that much. So when I learned this move it from Portsmouth Square, I like the description that Sifu's wife told me. Think about a ball in a bow. Oh, and the bow is like rounded. As the ball goes around, it goes around slow, but as it drops to the center, because the smaller diameter speeds up. And so this move is very much like that, where you start off with a big circle, then a smaller circle, and then a little circle. Big circle, smaller, smaller, and then speeds up. So the speed of the big circle is slow, and then gradually gaining speed, and then the little, like a ball going down a drain. So that's kind of get the idea of the circling into the smaller circle and into the speed. Again, if you go back to the link that I provided for my previous video that I did on shoot tiger with bow, and explained the function, which is a deflect and a punch. The ability to create power from almost very little space is kind of the concept behind this move. And of course, that comes from the ability to use your whole body and roots to create this power. But the circle idea is that deflect and going forward. And so the punch is going to end up going forward. But for now, a lot of practitioners, they just kind of come in, and I think that that's okay, because you're just getting the first concept of the big circle speeding up to the little circle. So again, going back to the position that you're beginning in here, because your left foot is forward, then what's going to happen is the right is going to come back, because you're already in this position. That's the reason why. If you're practicing opposite here, then it's going to be the opposite, where your left will come back and your right will go forward. But again, left forward, hands even. The right is going to come back, and the left is going to go out for the beginning. Let's do that again. Even position after the kick here, and then also as soon as you plant your foot on the ground, then you can begin your circle. So sometimes people will do cross wave of water lily kick right into shoot tiger with bow. For now, it's okay to separate the two. They're not necessarily linked together. So from here, starting from position, you're going to want to go back with the right and out with the left, like that. So again, from even, out with the left, back with the right. And again, they're going to be opposite of each other. When you're furthest out with the left, furthest back with the right. Furthest out with the right, furthest back with the left. It may take a little bit to get to your coordination so that they're both even circles, but that's what you want to do. Again, the bigger the circle you make, the better you'll get a feeling for it. In the end, when you finally get more into the understanding the whole principle, it's going to just be a quick pop. But for now, I want you to work on the circles. So from here, out with the left, in with the right. Big circle, medium circle, little circle, and then end. That. That's to get you to get that shifting of the waist. So from here, out with the left, make the fist. That. Again, out with the left, in with the right. Big circle, medium circle, In the beginning, it's okay to do a lot of circles. That's fine. So you can just try to get that feeling and then kind of get it to where it kind of circles smaller and smaller. Big circles, little circles. Big circles, little circles. Remember to keep your hands and fists and arms level like that. So if you just do it with the arms, it's going to look like this, like that. Um, I can't do it without shaking my hips at the end because I so tune into my body. But again, if you're doing kind of an elementary thing, it'll look like that. So you want your fists to end with the right going out. Okay, that's the main thing. Start with the left going out, and then the right finishes further out than the left. Left goes out, and then the right finishes going out a little further. But again, the big circle to little circle is the main concept from here. Big circle, medium circle, and then a little circle on the end as the right goes out. So again, if you're a beginner, I advise you to do this exercise as big circle, medium circle, a little bit smaller circle, a little circle. So you might do like 4 revolutions, just so that you gain that idea of how to circle with your body. As you get more practice and a little more advanced in this movement, then you're going to want to start to move your body with the circling. And I'm going to show you an exercise that you can do to develop this circling. But again, I emphasize in the beginning just to learn the primary movement and the sequential order, then just do it. It's okay to do it with your arm like that. And then you can kind of go into the other following moves. You know, we only have this movement and then one more lesson, and then you'll be done with the form. After you kind of get through the how to do the move and the sequential order, then you can start to work on these deeper details of uh, coming power from the root and the waist and the torso and the shoulders and arms. So in this exercise to develop the circling move, again as you get more advanced, so that you can turn to use your waist. I have an exercise that I teach my students, and this exercise is to work on this counter rotation from the hips to the arms. And so that's where the simple move gets more complicated, in that you're using more rotational whip in order to create the power. And with rotational whip, you're using your root, your waist, and your torso to create that circular power for a final ejection of power out. You see this a lot in Chen style Tai Chi as well, where they have like a quick whip from the body and a lot of issuance of power going out. And so that's really the basics behind this particular move, is to, since you're like deflecting and then you want to gain the power for the punch going forward, there's not much space, almost like a 1-inch punch. So you need to get that rotational movement into a forward projection. And so that's this exercise I'm going to show you helps to create this whip power. And again, if you follow my staff videos, we use a lot of concept of whip in using the staff as counter movement. The concept of whip is pretty simple. If you think of a whip that goes out, you create the initial large force by the when the whip goes out. But to get the snap on the tip of the whip, there's a pullback in order for that snap to happen. So it's all about timing when to get that little snap for the whip to go out. In martial arts, this concept is used a lot universally through many, many different styles. When do you create that opposite movement to create the forward force? And so even in this simple move, shoot tiger or bow, you have this vast universe of principle into this little movement. So in order to understand the concept of counter force, moving opposite, if you watch, I'll just do one arm so that you can kind of watch the left. When the the hip precedes the movement. Okay, think of a discus thrower where they're kind of like projecting the power on a flat circular plane in order to throw the disc out the furthest they can. They're using this preceding, just like a baseball player would have that forward whip before he throws the ball. So in order to learn this force, if you just stand forward with both legs even, that's the best way to do it. But you can also do it forward and back too. Because if you're practicing both, then you want to do even stance, but you can practice it this way as well. So you want this hip to go forward before the hand goes here. And so we're going to imagine that you have a circle in front of you, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. When your hand is at the 9 o'clock position, your hips will be going in. As the hand gets to the 12 o'clock position, now your hip is going to be circling back to the 6 o'clock to draw that hand back. Okay? When the hand gets to about the 4 o'clock position and coming through the 6 o'clock, you're going to start circling back with your hips already going forward, like that. So it's almost like the opposite, kind of like a hula hoop. So think of your hand position, and when it's at 12 o'clock, your hip is going to be going back at 6 o'clock, opposite. When it's at 3 o'clock, the hip will be out 9 o'clock. As the hand comes back to 6 o'clock, you're going to be going forward into 12 o'clock. So, so the hip precedes the hand, and also when the hand goes out to here, by having this hip coming back, you're adding force to the forward movement, again, using the principle of the whip. At first, this may seem kind of complicated, and you, of course, try to think about all this is pretty difficult. But I tell you this so that you can gauge whether your movement is counteracting to the hand movement, your hip. Now, a lot of times you see people going like this, and then you can see that that's simultaneous rather than opposite, like that. Now, when you do two hands, like we're doing in shoot tiger with bow, again, it's even more complicated because each hip is counter to the hand going forward. And so you're in unison with your hips circling opposite of the hand rather than, I hope you can see the difference of that. This is in unison with the move, and this is opposite of the move. Also, the more that you stay center without, not that you can't shift, because you can shift when you move, but for just learning, the more you can stay center. And sometimes it's easier, instead of trying to do it at shoulder level for this move, to start off practicing low down, because then you get your arms kind of waving more than just trying to use it from the shoulder. When you're doing shoot tiger with bow, your your arms are not as flexible because you're kind of on a high plane. So then it's like you have to really use your relaxed shoulder and the hip to create that counterforce. I know all this might sound pretty complicated, but if you just play with it, then you might eventually understand what I'm talking about. Mm. Later on, when we get into the idea, I know I keep promising to talk about internal punching and external punching. The concept of the 1 inch punch is very much based on this issuance of circular power into a straight line. And there's different ways to do the 1 inch punch, but in a rotational whip 1 inch punch, basically it's same thing of using that hip. And also Bruce Lee's whip punch is very much like the same principle of using that hip to create power. And again, going back to Chen style Tai Chi, you see that same principle being applied. So again, in this exercise, it's kind of like imagine you have a table in front of you, and then you're circling your hand on top of the table. I don't know if you've ever seen people shuffling mahjong, the ivory playing cards for Chinese mahjong, but when they shuffle basically the same way on the table. So that's what this move is very similar to that, just shuffling like that. Again, using the hips rotation. Another subtlety in practicing this, which even makes it a little more difficult, is the idea of the hand like a fishtail. Having the hand relaxing like a fishtail really kind of accentuates. Now the fishtail doesn't go back just like this, but the fingers keep pointing in a forward direction. But even as you're moving this hand across and this hip is going back, the fingertips of this hand are following like a fishtail. And then as you come through with the hip and this finger, see that little, as this hip moves, that finger. And the reason for using your fingertips as an enhancement is that just like the tip of the whip, you can see that whip movement reacting against that very tip. And so when you're doing with the fist, there's still flexibility in the fist, so that even though you don't have the fingertips to show that, you can watch the fist and see the same tail action, which is the indication of the whip force. Going back to this exercise, you see that the fingertips are moving left and right. Um, an easier way to practice this, other than the circle, is to practice waving your hand horizontally in a straight line back and forth. So when the hand gets over here, then the hip moves this way, and then the fishtail of the fingertips moves this way. And then same with forward, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. this is getting a little bit away from learning to move shoot tiger with bow, but it's a very, very good exercise to practice for developing your whip power. So, okay, so going back to tiger with bow, like that. Again, watching the hips. So to keep with shoot tiger with bow, now we're going to practice with the diagonal stance. So again, as I told you, hands start out even, but because your left forward is forward, you're going to start out with the left going forward and the right coming back. So you're doing this that exercise that I just showed you. It'll look like this. Also, this exercise can be practiced in a walking method, which is way more complicated. So when you take this right step, you're going to want the circle to be coming back. So as you step forward, see how that wave of the hand followed that step. You're going to have to find that moment right here where you step and the stepping becomes part of the hip movement that you're doing. A lot in getting into the more advanced principles of Tai Chi is to basically find where that freedom of movement is so that you can move off the rotation of your body. I'm going to leave that probably for another more advanced lesson. But again, in practicing this walking of the waving of the hand circle, when the hand is probably about, with me facing forward, 9 o'clock is when I'm going to begin that step. So that as it comes to 6 o'clock and I'm stepping forward, the hand follows, and then as I come in, it's going to go out to 3 o'clock. That. So you want to find that moment where it just kind of follows that. After a while, you don't have to think about it. It just becomes instinctual. And this actually ties into pushing hands as well. Here's like pushing hand rotation. You can see that in pushing hands, right about here, I'm coming back. And then right about here, when I want to push, I'm again pushing the hip forward like that. And then again, lineal force can change into horizontal force, back into lineal force. So just learning how to move your body like a wave is part of Tai Chi and part of this exercise that I'm showing you. So, okay, getting back to shoot tiger with bow. From here, when you end up here, you're going to do the kick, and then like that. Okay. Again, in the beginning, it would look more like this. From here, do the kick, kind of stop for a second. Okay, do probably about 3 to 4 circles is what I suggest. Again, let your shoulders be relaxed and free, and rotation. From here, we're not going to do the last move. That'd be next lesson. But from here, just step into a neutral stance. I want to end in this position here so we can go into the final 2, grasp bird tail. Okay, so the move for today will be from here, cross to the wave with a water lily kick, back to center, diagonal stance, neutral, and then circle, left goes out, and then a little circle with the right going forward. That'd be shoot tiger with bow. Okay, one more lesson to complete the form. And also, as I presented in another video, I know uh, there's always that tendency to want to learn the next move and the next move and the next move. And I did a video called "The End is Just the Beginning," and it's something that I'd advise you to go watch this video because it gets into the concept of the form is just the beginning of your learning, the end of the form. It's not the end of a learning. Sure, you've learned a complete form, but the end is just the beginning, gives you the concept that now you can stop looking forward to the next move and the next move and the next move and concentrate on where you are, to work on each move at one time. Throughout these video lessons, I've tried to give a lot of detail about each of the particular moves instead of just kind of showing you what the move looks like and having you mimic me in the way that I do the move. I try to present concepts and basics that you can conceptually understand the movements more. And I think that's pretty important for you to gain your own understanding. So, looking forward to the next lesson.